Jago, pastor of Bethany Lutheran Church and Preschool. And if you're already a member of our adult Sunday school class, you know that. But I am doing this video to recap what we've been learning in our Sunday school about the book of Job. Hoping that we can get a whole bunch of other groups going and multiply our Bible study ministry at Bethany Lutheran. Now, if you like to come and join a class, that's going to be online on Saturday nights at 5 o'clock. I know, Sunday school on Saturday, but that's been necessary as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's still, the situation is still very fluid, and we're not ready to come back for Sunday school in the building just yet. We are holding worship services, however. So if you would like to visit us for worship, you may come down to 2501 Beacon Hill Road in Alexandria, Virginia. We have an outdoor service at 8:30 a.m. And then at 10 o'clock we come inside, and that service is also online at www.bethany-lcms.org. Be happy to see you. For this study, as I said, we're going to be recording these recaps. So after we have a class on Saturday night, I bring the discussion here with me and the notes that I took. I'm going to be sharing these with you so that it will help your discussion. You have the discussion questions there in front of you that we used in our session, so that whether you got a few friends coming to your backyard or a few family members around your kitchen table, you'll be able to have this discussion as well. And I know that God is going to bless us as we absorb His wisdom. This is the book of Job, comes from one of the wisdom books, and it's not like a straight narrative. It's meant for us to take and to chew on it and to think about it. Think about how God works, what some truths and observations about our life, how God works in the world around us, maybe relating that to this pandemic time that we're living in right now. And that's what we've been doing in Bible class. Job has been something that we've been coming back to and discussing from time to time. It seemed like a very natural place for us to study. And so we're going to start with chapter 1, verse 1. You can open your Bible there with me, or else just take some quick notes as we go through this short video. In chapter 1, verse 1, there's 4 ways in which Job is described. Let me get that up on my Bible here. We see Job described in chapter 1, verse 1 as blameless, upright, one who feared God and turned away. Some translations have shunned evil. One of our class members connected that to the 10 Commandments, and I like that because one of the things that in our Lutheran tradition, Martin Luther's Small Catechism, for each one of those commandments, asks the question, what does this mean? And then the answer begins, we should fear and love God, so that we are righteous and blameless and blah, 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 blah. What do these 4 things mean to you? That's a question for your group to answer, I believe, as ours did. And in the next section, verses 2 through 5, we have the words Uz and people of the east. That's to give us a location and time right around the time or before the time of Abraham, the patriarchs in ancient Mesopotamia, maybe from around the area where Abraham is from. And what is your take on this contest that is set up? Discuss that in your group. What is the take on this contest? I know my reaction was like, oh my goodness, how could God work that way and cause this much suffering? So it's okay to say you don't like it. That was my initial reaction, but that caused me to come back to this time and time again, wrestle with it, and eventually see, okay, this is wisdom literature again. It's not like a straight narrative. In a lot of ways, this is like a parable. It's a story that could be true, but the truth or not truth of it isn't the point. It's still communicating a spiritual truth. What is the spiritual truth that this wisdom story is communicating? Especially when we get to that familiar character, Satan. Now, there's a name that we know. It means the accuser. And how is Satan the accuser? One person in our group asked, okay, well, what is his purpose here? Is it really to get Job, or is it to somehow discredit God? I don't have an answer for that, but that would be maybe, again, some fruit for discussion there. Little does Satan know, one other person in our group said that these tests and trials that Job goes through will lead him to a stronger faith, and that's true in our lives as well. In fact, you look at Job's reaction here. That comes up next. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. My goodness, would that be your reaction? Mine would be something like, oh, that's so unfair. And to rail against how unfair it is. And someone said, that's what a lot of people are saying right now in this pandemic. This is unfair. That's unfair. We're thinking about that during this time. And then in the next scene, back in the heavenly courtroom, highlight chapter 2, verse 3 for me, will you? The one part here that I really want you to talk about is where God says, without reason. Because Job's friends are going to try to come up with a reason that all these things are happening, and they all come back to, Job, you did something wrong. And Job insists that he didn't. And he's right. How does that work? How does this all work out? And someone else in the group pointed out, Pastor, when God is in charge, do you really need a reason? Or like Job did earlier, do we just give thanks in all circumstances? Very good point. Again, more discussion to be had on that, including this other question that I'm not going to be able to answer in less than an hour, and we're going to be talking a lot more about it in our discussion. How does this relate to God's justice? We'll be coming back to God's justice time and time again throughout this discussion. Well, like I said, this is wisdom literature. And again, Job's reaction, and his wife says you should curse God. Job says to his wife, don't be like the foolish woman, or you sound like the foolish woman. The word foolish there in Hebrew is Nabal. Don't be like the Nabal woman. And that's an interesting word because it's personified in the Bible. Good cross-reference here. 1 Samuel 25. Take a look at that. And in your group, talk about how this person, Nabal, lives up to the word foolishness. Because wisdom literature is meant for us to steer away from foolishness and to be on the path of the righteous. That's all throughout Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job as well. So how does this illustration of Nabal, foolishness, help us in discerning the path? And finally, we get to Job's friends. They come. There's 4 of them ultimately. We're introduced to 3 here, and they're there sitting, and the Jewish custom is sitting Shiva. You just sit there and be quiet while this person who had everything taken away and is grieving. You sit there in silence. You just grieve with them. There's a lot there, I think, for us, to take into our hearts as far as how we deal with suffering. I've seen this in West African culture, in Liberian culture, where someone, their family member was taken, and you just sit for a little while, and then you pray and sing even, eventually. But first there's that silence as you just absorb and process what's going on. Well, this whole book of Job is a process, and so we're going to be just sitting down with Job, hearing the dialogue and discussion that he has with his friends, and again, looking at what is the path, what is the wisdom that we should be getting out of this book. I hope this video helps the discussion going on, either the process, what we've discussed previously, or to help in the future discussions that you're going to have, and through all of this. May God bless the hearing, reading, marking, learning, and we say in our prayer, inwardly digesting of His holy word. God be with you.